The day my human did not leave the bed, our whole house changed. And for the first time, I understood what fear felt like. Usually, morning begins with slippers, cupboard sounds, and my breakfast bowl arriving exactly when the light touches the kitchen floor near my paws. That morning, the light reached the floor alone, but no footsteps followed it, and no familiar voice floated from the doorway either. I waited for the cupboard door, the metal spoon, the tiny apology for sleeping late. But the kitchen stayed strangely, stubbornly silent. At first, I thought my human was being lazy, stretched too deep inside the blankets, ignoring my schedule like it was suddenly optional. So I called once, then louder. Then with the annoyed cry I use when breakfast is late and patience has already ended. I scratched the bed frame lightly, not to hurt anything, only to remind the sleeping giant that I was still here waiting. When nothing happened, I paced the room, tail sharp, ears forward, carrying my irritation from the doorway to the window and back. I even left a sulk in my corner, pretending I did not care, because sometimes distance feels like the only possible protest. But the room stayed wrong for too long, and annoyance began thinning into something colder, quieter, and much harder to name inside. My human was still there, yet somehow farther away, lying under the blanket like someone listening from a very distant place today. I jumped onto the bed to complain properly, expecting a quick sigh, a small laugh, a hand reaching out to move me. The hand came, but slower than usual, brushing my back with a softness that felt tired instead of playful or warm today. And I lifted my nose toward the air above the blanket. And even before understanding anything, I knew my human smelled different somehow. Not bad, not dangerous, just changed. Like rainwater in a familiar bowl, like home carrying a strange new layer under its skin. Then I heard the breathing clearly, heavier than sleep, slower than rest, each rise and fall sounding like effort to keep going. The voice that finally said my name was still my favorite sound, but it came out thinner, as if it had traveled farther. I did not know the word for sickness, only that my human had become quieter in places that were always full of life. The kitchen was one of those places, and the silence there felt bigger than an empty bowl or a missed routine ever. No quick water pouring, no cabinet door, and no little conversation spoken to me as if I understood every single human word there. I walked across the blanket again, pressing my paws carefully, hoping movement might wake the day back into its proper place somehow. Instead, my human only opened tired eyes and looked at me with love that felt real, but dimmed around the edges today. That was the moment my irritation cracked, because even I could see something fragile moving beneath that familiar face all day long. I stopped demanding the morning and started watching it, listening for tiny sounds, measuring pauses, learning a new kind of waiting there. Even the room felt different, as though the sunlight entered politely, not wanting to disturb the weight resting across the bed today. I could hear the clock, the refrigerator, the distant street, all the sounds that usually hide beneath footsteps, laughter, and doors moving. A quiet house is never truly empty, but that day, it sounded like everything was whispering around one thing nobody could fix. I went to the window, then came back, because the world
Hey there,
outside
little
kept
buddy.
moving normally,
Come here.
and I no longer trusted normal things. The patch of sun on the floor looked the same as always, yet the house felt colder, even while light touched everything. So I stayed closer, first at the doorway, then beside the bed, pretending I was simply curious instead of worried all morning. I watched the water glass remain half full, the blanket remain rumpled, The body beneath it remained slower than any day before. When my human tried to sit up, the effort moved through the whole bed first, like pain had weight and shape there. A small sound escaped, not loud enough for alarm, but soft enough to make my ears lift and my chest tighten instantly. I stepped onto the pillow, brought my face near, and searched the air again, as if smell could explain what eyes could not. Cats notice changes before they become words, before they become plans, before they become the kind of truth humans finally say aloud. I could feel it in the skin of the room, in the pauses, in the way my human reached for nothing slowly. Usually, I chase trouble when boredom visits. But that day, every mischievous idea fell away before it even reached my paws fully. The toy mouse stayed under the chair, untouched, because noise suddenly felt rude and play no longer belonged to this room today. I stopped asking for the version of my human I wanted and began staying beside the one who could barely move now. At the edge of the mattress, I tucked myself down and listened, letting my body become a quiet weight near theirs there. When the hand lowered again, I leaned into it instead of wriggling away, because today, even weak touch felt important to me. My purring came out softly, not playful, not demanding. More like a little engine trying to warm something fragile back alive again. I did not know whether purring could fix anything, but I knew it was mine to offer, so I kept offering it. When evening came, I did not patrol the hall or inspect the kitchen. I remained beside the bed, guarding stillness through dark. Each cough made my tail twitch. Each restless turn pulled my eyes open. And sleep became something I only borrowed that night. I learned the shape of worry without understanding its name, because worry sounds like listening too hard for one more breath nearby. Whenever my human shifted, I raised my head immediately, checking the room, the air, the silence, as if I were responsible now. The doorway became my watch post, the blanket became my map. And that slow breathing became the only task worth following through. Even when hunger returned, I ate quickly and came back faster, unwilling to let too much space open up between us again. For once, the bowl mattered less than the bed. And that is how I knew this was no ordinary broken routine today. I placed one paw on the blanket sometimes, just enough to feel movement, just enough to know my human was still there. And when a faint smile finally appeared, small as a crack of light, relief spread through me before I understood it fully. The hand found my head again, slow and shaky, yet I leaned harder into it, grateful for even that little return today. Love, in my world, is not speeches or promises. It is choosing the same place again when leaving would be easier instead. So I kept choosing the bed, the blanket fold, the warm corner beside weak legs, the hand that moved slower than usual. Outside, the afternoon birds still argued, the neighbors still passed, the world still acted as though nothing important was trembling here today. Inside, everything important was in one room. Inside one bed, inside one tired body, I could not stop watching for hours straight. Time became strange there, measured less by meals and shadows, more by breaths, swallowed medicine, and whether the eyes stayed open long. Sometimes strangers came near the doorway, bringing cups, cloths, and worried voices. But I only cared when they finally left again quietly. The room always felt better once it was just us again, the weak breathing, my listening, and the soft blanket between us. I am small, but small creatures learn quickly when something precious is unstable, and stillness can become its own kind of work. So I worked by staying, by noticing, by pressing close without demanding, by turning my body into company instead of another need. When my human slept too long, I nudged the blanket edge and waited. Not panicked, just needing some sign back from them. When the water glass emptied a little, or the medicine disappeared, hope returned in tiny pieces I could almost trust again then. When my human managed to sit, I rose with them, alert and ready, as if balance itself might need my help there. And when the body fell back into the pillows, my chest tightened again, because hope can stumble as quickly as legs do. That day taught me the house can feel cold, even in sunlight, when the one who warms it cannot rise easily anymore. It also taught me that fear is not noise. Sometimes fear is a quiet room and eyes that stay open too long. Before this, I thought losing something meant an empty bowl, a closed door, a toy gone beneath the sofa forever, for good. Now I understood loss could begin while someone is still here, simply by becoming harder to reach in familiar ways each day. So I stopped asking for games, stopped chasing shadows, stopped complaining when dinner came late or not exactly right that evening either. My job had changed, and even without understanding why, I accepted the new shape of it with my whole body that day. I curled against the feet beneath the blanket, because warmth can travel quietly, and closeness sometimes says what words never manage to. Other times, I pressed along the arm, matching stillness to stillness, offering my small heartbeat beside a tired, larger one there, softly. I watched the chest rise, fall, pause, rise again, and I learned how much love can fit inside, waiting like that alone. No one had to teach me this lesson. Attachment writes itself into routine, and routine breaks loudly, even when rooms stay quiet. My human whispered my name once that evening, thin and tired, and I answered immediately, because some calls must never wait long. I touched my forehead to the hand beside me, not knowing prayers, only knowing this felt like the closest thing possible here. If love were a human sentence, perhaps it would sound grand. But mine was simpler. I am here still. I could not name fevers, medicine, weakness, or healing, because cats do not live inside explanations. We live inside felt changes instead. And every change in my human told me one thing clearly. This was the moment to stay, not wander away at all. So I stayed through dim afternoons, through restless nights, through missed play, through silence, through the heavy stretch of waiting beside them. I stayed when the room smelled strange, when the blanket held too much heat, when the voice sounded smaller than before too. I stayed when my own annoyance would have been easier. Because love sometimes begins exactly where convenience ends for creatures like me. People may think cats disappear from feelings, but often we move closer when the air, the body, and the heart change together. We do not always show devotion loudly. Sometimes devotion is a curled shape at the bedside, listening harder than anyone notices there. We notice temperature, scent, rhythm, absence, the broken edges of habit, and we answer with presence before language ever could for us. That is why I remained in that room, even when nothing was happening. Because sometimes, nothing is where everything important lives quietly. I still did not understand illness, but I understood this much. My human was weaker, and leaving would have been wrong then. So if you see a cat lying silently beside a sick human, remember this. Sometimes staying is the deepest form of love.